This is a production of Off the Hook Sports with Dave Hooker.
Welcome to the program as I am with Amanda LaFrada and we have Ethan Stone as well. The Celtics lost, so let's just not even talk about that. The Diamond Vols obviously are the topic of the conversation. This is our premiere show of Off the Hook Sports with Dave Hooker. And if you're watching this, then the website is up and running at offthehooksports.com. What we hope to do is provide you some sports, and I would say information and entertainment as the goal. And please support our sponsors because they're great people. And if I endorse them, then I can tell you firsthand that they are fantastic people, fantastic sponsors, and I do business with them. So I want to take a second to thank them. I want to thank Files Automotive Group. I want to thank Midnight Oil here in Cleveland, Owl's Nest Barbecue, Zool Beer, which I'll tell you more about. We got some fun events there. Bassy Lawn and Garden, he and I believe invented the term the Vol Report, City Heat and Air, and Craft Treats. City Heat and Air has done my family's HVAC work for a number of years. And then, of course, you have our good friends at Craft Treats that can make your pet happy. I need to send you some stuff. Amanda, you're a pet person. I could send you some from Craft Treats to help with arthritis, anxiety. I even eat some myself.
Oh, yeah. Ava could definitely use some for anxiety. That's for sure.
Okay. Done and done. We'll take care of you on Craft Treats. So go there. Guys, the baseball team advances. Not a surprise. And frankly, when I watched this baseball team, even trailing on Saturday, trailing on Sunday, I never really had a doubt personally that they were going to come back and win either one of those games. You just kind of have that feeling, Ethan, about this team.
Yeah, I believe I actually texted you in the fourth inning when they're down 4-0. I'm not sure when that was early. When they go down 4-0 early, just like they did against Campbell, go down 4-0. I said they're always going to come back. That's just what this team does. And kind of like I alluded to earlier, the exact same thing happened on Saturday. They go down 4-0 and then they fight back and they win by a considerable margin. And obviously happened a little later against Georgia Tech, obviously with that 6-run top of the ninth. But either way, they got it done. They have, I guess, such amazing depth and such an ability to bat in the clutch, especially not even their big guys. It was Jared Dickey that really got that first single to get things going, and then it was just an avalanche from there. So to see what Tennessee's done all season, obviously they come back against Mississippi State earlier in the year. They come back against Florida earlier in the year, and they've done it twice now in the Knoxville Regional, and there's no reason to think that they won't keep finding ways to win going forward, moving into the Supers against Notre Dame.
Amanda, you're a football gal. Who would have ever thought that baseball would dominate the week after SEC spring meetings? We're going to visit with Paul Finebaum about SEC spring meetings, but I mean, really, that was a thing that took over a week or two in the sports media world, and now the biggest, I would argue, SEC spring meetings in the history of SEC spring meetings has been pushed to the background in Knoxville because of baseball. That's pretty insane.
I mean, it is insane, to be honest. I think this team is just so dominant that everybody's talking about it, that it's kind of a phenomenon at this point. They are, 53 and no, now it'd be 55-7. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So they ended the regular season 53-7. I mean, I've never seen a team like it, to be honest. But I know you're very confident about it, and you guys are very confident over the weekend. But from what I was saying, UT fans were a little hesitant to be so confident. I think they're used to their teams, basketball, football, just getting there and just falling short, like just heartbreak for Tennessee. So I think they're nervous, but if you're going to be confident in any team, this is the one to be confident in.
It does seem like we're waiting for the other shoe to drop, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like the other cleat to hit the ground. And it's just been that way with Tennessee athletics for so long. I was trying to put in perspective, this would be the biggest thing to happen to Tennessee since If they win the national championship, I think it's the biggest thing to happen to Tennessee athletics since 2001 when they beat Florida and made the SEC championship game, eventually lost, would have played Miami. But I think since 2001, I would say that winning a national title in baseball might be the biggest since that. Am I reaching? Is that too far?
It's not too far. But I would disagree. I would think that this would be bigger than that. It would be the biggest thing to happen since 98, the national championship in 98. Because winning a national title is huge, no matter what sport it's in. But especially with a dominant team like this one, yeah, the biggest thing to happen since 98.
Wow. That'd be pretty big. And again, I go back to this team. I do want to address for a moment what happened with the Evan Russell situation. Ethan, here's a young man that's apparently ill, and broadcaster either heard the wrong information, shared off the record information, or was just totally inaccurate. I don't know, but he apologized. But one of the cool moments over the weekend in society, not just UT baseball, is the dad actually just said, "Hey, no big deal. All is forgiven." When does that ever happen on social media, that all is forgiven, we get along? It's supposed to be, I hate you because you believe in different stuff, or you hate or love guns, or you hate or love this. I thought that was a really cool moment and showed the closeness of this program.
Yeah, you're definitely a better man than I am, and it really shows, I guess, where they're not just his dad, but the entire family, and Evan Russell included, obviously, where their head is at right now. They're like, we want to go out here, win super regionals, and then go to Omaha. We don't really care about what this announcer has to say. Which, by the way, that's violating journalism 101 right there. You don't just make a unsubstantiated claims that you're not 100% sure where the original source is. You got to verify that stuff, and obviously that's not the topic of conversation, because Evan Russell's dad and Evan Russell, they just don't care. They're like, so what? Move on. Let's not make that the talking point here. Let's make moving on. And Evan Russell, obviously, with an RBI against Campbell, and then obviously Tennessee playing well enough to get the win against Georgia Tech and move on. So that's all they care about. They want to be focused on their team. They want to be focused on moving on. And you kind of have to respect, I guess, not just his dad with the I guess the social aspect of that, but saying there's more important things. And I feel like Tennessee as a whole, that's kind of a microcosm for them. They're focused on winning. They're focused on moving on.
Before we take a look at Notre Dame, their super regional opponent, let me ask you both: what will make Tennessee fans happy, a national championship or something else? Is there anything else that they'll be okay with after the hype?
I'd say Omaha at the very least, but I would say Tennessee would need to at least win a couple games in Omaha. Winning the College World Series is difficult. I feel like all Tennessee fans will realize that, especially if you believe in curses. The number one curse of, I believe it was a team in 1999, maybe Oregon State. I could be butchering that, so don't quote me on that. But it's been a while since a number one overall seed has won the whole thing. It's just hard. It puts a target on your back. But if there's any team I feel like that could break that curse, it's Tennessee right now, even with the history of the athletic program in its rearview mirror. And like you said, that other shoe to drop eventually, like you said earlier. But I feel like Tennessee fans will realize that and realize it's hard to do it. And if they get to Omaha and they win a couple games, I don't think there's too much to complain about. But knowing Tennessee fans, there might be a way to find a way to do that, I guess.
What would make Tennessee fans happy other than a national title in Omaha?
Nothing.
Amanda.
Absolutely nothing.
So if you get into the final series and you lose by some crazy play at the end, you're not okay with that, right?
No, because you should have made that play. Tennessee fans are expecting, and rightly so, look at this team. They're expecting a national title. If they fall anything short from that, it's going to be one of those disappointments just to add to the list of disappointments.
Sure.
Now, if you use the word expecting, I'd say absolutely. Tennessee fans are absolutely expecting a national title. Would they be disappointed here in 2 months, 3 months if they did fall short of the mountaintop? I'd say initially yes, but But later, I'd say they'd look back on this team and all the dominance they had, and then realize maybe a really tough team would come in and knock them off, and they'd be okay with it. But expected, I agree with Amanda. I mean, right now, the expectation should be Tennessee should win a national championship, and really it shouldn't be close because this team is just a powerhouse.
Should be interesting. It's a baseball team that doesn't score a lot of runs, and we're talking about Notre Dame, but it's a baseball team that has great pitching. So you got to be ready to go dry at the plate for a while and keep swinging away and take the best pitches. Paul Finebaum coming up next of ESPN. We'll visit with him. She's Amanda LaFrada and Ethan Stone. I'm Dave Hooker. Again, this has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports, and I ask very nicely of you to turn your notifications on because we're going to have a lot of content covering Tennessee and the SEC, so we want you to see that. But also, as much as anything, go to that YouTube page and like that, follow, and go to offthehooksports.com for the latest. So we got Paul Finebaum coming up next, a 2-minute break because we're pretty quick. Stay tuned.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassey Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassey, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassey's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassey Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
All right, we're back with Paul Finebaum, and we certainly appreciate that with Amanda LaFrada. I'm Dave Hooker. Be sure and follow us on Facebook. Go to offthehooksports.com. Also, YouTube, a great place. So, Paul, Tennessee's a baseball school. Your thoughts?
It's one of the more startling stories I've seen in a long time. When you go back a couple of years ago, this was a moribund program, and it is now at the epicenter of the sports college world, the prohibitive favorite to win it all. And I think, to me, this is an important step. Let's move the calendar 3 weeks from now and assume that Tennessee is playing for the national championship and wins it. I think that breaks down this glass ceiling that Tennessee has been struggling with for so long. I think it makes it easier for everything else. Basketball has come very close, as everyone knows. Women's basketball is back. And football, to me, seems like it's on the cusp. So for the first time in really maybe Amanda's lifetime, but certainly not mine, Tennessee has got everything going on the same page. And over the last 15 or 20 years, you couldn't make that statement. It's remarkable and pleasing to see as a graduate.
You couldn't make it over the last 15 or 20 years. I don't know that you could make it much before that either, because as you know, your generation, and we're pretty close, and my generation know that other sports other than football were not a priority. And so really we're talking about uncharted territory as far as being competitive. If Tennessee football is being competitive in all of the sports at all at the same time, it's pretty impressive.
And, again, we're going back a half a century almost, not quite, but, when I went to school at Tennessee in the late 70s, it had a remarkable swimming program and track program. And, Pat Summitt was ascending, and the football program was in the middle of a transition, and basketball was great. And, that's what was expected. What you now get at Florida, where you walk in the door down there, and it doesn't matter who you are, you're expected to win a national championship. That's how it was in the 70s and later, even at Tennessee, especially when Pat began dominating women's basketball. But it's gone away, and we don't need to discuss why, because it's already been hashed over ad nauseum. But I think there is a perfect universe going, and I didn't catch it until I happened to be in Knoxville for the Georgia game, the football game, a couple of months ago, and I was invited to speak, Dave and Amanda, at the Daily Beacon, which is really where my career began, and it's forever a cherished and hallowed ground. And I was speaking to a group of students, and some woman walked in, and she kept standing there looking anxious, and I'm like going, okay, maybe I'm supposed to stop. And finally, a friend of mine tapped me on the shoulder and said that was Chancellor Plowman. I had met her somewhere, but I didn't know her. And we had this incredible conversation afterwards. And I feel like her leadership, with the new athletic director and just the the president of the system, all on the same page for the first time, has been critical. And things that would have not occurred in the past are occurring. And I start with Vitello. He may have been gone without strong leadership, and we wouldn't be having this baseball conversation. Other situations, maybe Barnes would have said, you know what. I can go to UCLA and end my career. Maybe Josh Heupel wouldn't have been hired, and maybe Jeremy Pruitt would have remained. So there are a lot of little things that have happened that I think are all important to the general conversation we are having.
Well, it's funny because this would have obviously dominated SEC spring meetings. Last week would have dominated if not for the baseball team, but the baseball team has had the front page here in Knoxville. But I do want to talk to you about SEC spring meetings. You were there. I argue from afar, I have not covered one, but I argue from afar that is the most eventful spring meetings in the history of spring meetings. Am I wrong?
No, you're not, because usually these things it's like a presidential summit. It's all done in advance, including the final doctrine on what everyone's agreeing to. And what happened down there a week ago today, when people started to arrive, a week ago on Memorial Day, I should say, nobody knew what was going to happen. The last time we had seen Jimbo Fisher, he was out of control. You didn't know if that was going to carry over. You suspected it wouldn't. You also didn't really know what was going to happen with the scheduling future. And nothing really did, but a lot was said. And there's so much going on right now, Dave and Amanda, in the SEC. There's the uncertainty about Texas and Oklahoma. When are they coming in? There's the uncertainty about the CFP. And the big uncertainty is about NIL. Can it be controlled? And for the first time ever, you got a coach who has challenged another coach, and it's unprecedented. There've been, you and I remember 10 years ago, 12 years ago, maybe 12, 13 years ago down there when Lane Kiffin and Urban Meyer crossed swords. But that was minor league stuff compared to what Jimbo Fisher said about Nick Saban. And there was a great degree of tension outside that room among the media last Tuesday when the coaches met.
I think we're picking up a little bit of static for some reason, maybe on Paul's mic. But Amanda, I know you wanted to jump in there, and I will have to tell you, Paul, on the front end, Amanda is the biggest Alabama fan that I've ever met. So I've got that going. Against me on a show that originates out of East Tennessee.
Well, Amanda, if I could jump in here before you even speak. I went to Tennessee and I committed the cardinal sin of moving to Alabama for most of my career. So anytime I would go back to Knoxville, I would have to fight that. So I don't know what advice I would give to you on the other side of that, because you're in big trouble. I mean, there have been jobs. I mean, there's a guy that used to cover Tennessee at the News Sentinel who was an Alabama guy, and they literally ran him out. John Adams took his place about 35 years ago. So please take my advice. Be careful, and I'll be more than happy to be there as a friend anytime you need some counsel.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And really, John just took it for the really good health insurance because he always has maladies. So that's the only reason. Oh, my arm hurts. Sorry, Amanda, go right ahead.
I'm actually a UT graduate and a big Alabama fan, but I went to Alabama first. So, and then I transferred to UT because I'm from Nashville and it's in state. But I grew up an Alabama fan in Nashville and Tennessee, so I have heard it from all sides, everywhere. But I stand my ground. I was here when Alabama wasn't that great, to be honest. But I started college when Tennessee took a downward spiral. The football program just took a downward spiral. So I've been around for the mattress burning of, Lane Kiffin and all of that kind of thing, and the Derek Dooley days, and it's been rough here. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I applaud you, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I would say to both of you, I am not an Alabama fan. I'm a Tennessee fan. That's where my degree is. It's on the wall somewhere behind me, and I just happen to have lived in Alabama my entire career, and you can't help but pull for the schools that you're around. Dave, you understand that as well as anyone.
Let me ask you this, Paul. If you're the commissioner, and some would argue that you would be a good candidate, but might have to take a pay cut. But let's if you're the commissioner and you can up and make 3 of these vast changes, and I'm talking about scheduling, I'm talking about NIL, and you could mold all of what we talked about last week, how would you mold it together? Because the scheduling is an issue for me. I want to see Alabama on there, and I don't think NIL should be as prevalent in recruiting, although I think the players deserve it when they get there. Those are my thoughts in a nutshell. What did you think of the many issues?
Yeah, the first thing you have to do is end the mystery about Texas and Oklahoma. You just can't let that hang over you for 3 or 4 more years. You put them in a year from now. You go to 9 games. Why is that significant? Well, with Texas and Oklahoma, you have to do something. You just can't have inequity. You go to the 9-game format. You have 3 permanent, and then you rotate, so you see everybody every couple of years. And then you figure out a way to make sure the CFP goes to 12 very quickly, because that helps support the 9-game schedule. And as far as the NIL, you just have to protect the season, and you have to protect coaches where the portal isn't open all year long. As far as regulating the NIL, I don't think you can do it. I hear this, and Sankey said this the other day to us, that about why he went to Washington. Washington is not going to help you out. That train passed a long time ago. All these commissioners, all these college presidents, and all the executives at the NCAA had 20 years to make changes, and they didn't. So that's their problem, not mine. I think the players should get whatever they can. As far as regulating it, it's impossible for this reason. There's no one to regulate it. I'm not saying the 3 of us would walk into a store on the strip and steal blindly if there was no guardrails or no security, but we might be tempted to at least grab a drink now and then if we were thirsty. And right now there's no such thing as the NCAA Enforcement Division, Dave. I mean, you remember the days when they did have some teeth. They don't. So I think it's really incumbent upon the coaches to regulate it. It's almost like the old mobster movies, so where the 5 families regulated each other, and that's the only way to do it. And I think that's what made the Saban Jimbo thing so interesting.
You've said a lot of things, Paul. That's one of the scariest things that maybe you've ever said, is that it's up to the head coaches to regulate themselves. That is scary.
It is, but it's better than nobody regulating it. And frankly, you have to let them say what I don't like is top-down censorship. meaning you can't let these coaches speak out. I think you have to be able to. I didn't like that decision by the SEC to immediately sanction someone for speaking their mind. I don't care what you say, but I think you have the right to say it, because I think in the past, coaches did turn each other in. Why did Alabama go on probation in the early 2000s? Because Steve Spurrier called out Mike Dubose. He called him a cheater. Why did Steve Spurrier do it? Because Philip Fulmer had complained to Steve Spurrier about cheating in Memphis. When the head coach at Tennessee can't get a player out of Memphis, something's wrong, and they're all going to Alabama because of a booster. So I don't have a problem with that. We are at a point, though, where the public has so quickly moved on to thinking that it really matters that, Dave, it really doesn't. And I just think that with the amount of money that's being flushed into the system and the coaching salaries, and that's where it starts. I mean, when your coach makes $10 million a year, don't tell me a player can't make money. It just doesn't work, because the young people of today, and I know that sounds like I grew up in an ancient time. I mean that as a compliment. Young people of today look at it the same way I did, and you did, and Amanda did. This is our time. This is our moment. We are going to make the most of it. And if you're an 18-year-old at the University of Tennessee right now, making the most of it is getting an opportunity to play, get your education. I know that sounds cliche, and make money.
My company pays players, and I'm proud of it. I don't think they take advantage of it. I vetted them. I don't think they're the ones that are going to get in trouble stealing a hamburger at Pilot. And I have zero problem them having money to take somebody out on a date. I know it sounds like it's TMZ 20 years ago, Paul, but I have zero problem with it.
I don't either. And I think the sooner people, not your age, Dave, but my age, accept it, the better. Because I mean, I can't tell you how many times a week I get that phone call. Well, I don't know why we can't go back the way it used to be. I don't want to go back that way. It was a disproportionate system back then, and now at least there's some equity. And I will tell you all this. Every time you hear somebody say, college football is going to hell in a handbasket, and I'm not going to watch anymore, I say total BS. On the first Saturday of the season, Neyland Stadium will be filled to the gills. There will be 50,000 people outside ready for ball walk, and when the game's over and you get back home, you'll be watching whatever other game is on, and the ratings will be through the roof. That's the current trend in sports television right now. So I just laugh. I don't want you can't turn the clock back on anything, especially sports, and you just have to accept it, or that's your problem. It's not the three of ours.
Paul, I mean this sincerely. The SEC is blessed to have you. There's not somebody else like you in any other conference, and we're blessed to have you as part of our very first show. I really appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you, Amanda. All the best to you, and just keep the roll tides down to a whisper. And
I can't do it. I can't do it.
Well, when I get up to Knoxville, I'm asking for 5 minutes to have a cup of coffee with you, and I will implore you just to tone it down, just for your safety. That's all. And Dave, good luck with this venture. It's such a pleasure to be with you again.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate it. Paul Finebaum, VSP. Take care, Paul.
Thank you, guys. See you soon.
Thank you.
More after this. Dave Hooker. Stay tuned. This is Off the Hook Sports. Dave Hooker.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassy Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassy, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassy's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassy Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Look at our guy here, Josh Ward, nice enough to join us. You know him, so do I. He is an incredible young man who is celebrating his birthday. Look at this guy. I mean, happy birthday. You join us on your birthday. You don't take the day off.
Well, when you enter your 30s, Dave, you have to celebrate the right
Yes.
way. So since that is what is happening today, no better way to celebrate than with you.
Right. So Josh actually hasn't entered his 30s. He's 29.
Yeah,
Maybe.
soon enough, I will be there. Soon enough.
Yeah, he may be just a little bit older than that. The conversation.
Yeah, or I'm
with
barely
Josh-
hanging on to them one way or the other. Yeah.
That's right. With Josh Ward, this is the Vol Report. It's brought to you in part by our Zool. Man, Zool beer is unbelievable. Killed the Lights Beer Festival and the re-release of the Rhymes Like Dimes. They took the gold beer at the Beer Cup in the Juicy Hazy IPA category. They beat out 342 other breweries in the category. They can release that in this coming Friday. So check it out. The Kill the Lights Beer Festival, October the 22nd. It's the first annual Kill the Lights Beer Fest, 50 plus breweries, food vendors, music, man, some new beer and merch. They got merch. You can get the general admission tickets. You get into the festival, an awesome tasting glass, drinking, rinsing water, unlimited pours. Check them out. And that's from 50 breweries across the United States. That's going to be on October the 22nd. That is down the road, but get out to Zool Beer. That's very easy to find right downtown, and you will have some fantastic beer. We're going to have some great events there on Friday with their food truck, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So, Josh, I got to ask you, this Tennessee baseball program, they're down a few runs on Saturday. They're down a few runs on Sunday. I never had the feeling that they were just going to fade. There's something about the psyche of this program that I just don't see that.
I don't either. I don't think confidence wavers. If anything, maybe it builds up of, hey, here's a big opportunity. When Tennessee's had the few opportunities, because it hasn't happened often in the ninth inning to rally or need to put something together. Think about the Florida series on the road where Florida's social media account tweeted out closing time. Tennessee closed things out all right for the Gators, where they rallied back and it was bombs away. Same thing, I thought Saturday night, hey, it's close. Campbell's fighting hard. Credit to the Camels. And then Tennessee said, watch this. And Lawson hits a 3-run homer, and all of a sudden they're winning by 5 runs. And same deal on Sunday night where Georgia Tech for 8 innings was just better than Tennessee. Not by a wide margin, but enough to have the lead in the ninth inning. And then Tennessee flexed its muscles, and Jordan Beck hits a rocket to center field. And the Vols just picked up the momentum from there and then built a huge lead, which they kind of needed in the bottom of the ninth because Georgia Tech, which has a good lineup, would not go away. But this team just isn't rattled. And I'm sure fans would have liked to have cruised through the Saturday and Sunday games as Tennessee has done a lot of the season. Maybe this team needed a little bit of that just to keep itself in check. Now we can break down, okay, what's the pitching going to do next? Dolander bounce back? My guess would be yes, heading into the super regional round. But from a psyche standpoint, it's very difficult to rattle this Tennessee baseball team. I really don't know that it's happened yet.
Yeah, you're on the Sports Animal every day there in Knoxville, so you have your finger on the pulse. And I think when you and I started first talking about this Tennessee team being really, really good, potentially really, really good, they started that upward trend. I said, would Tennessee rather win a baseball national championship or get a 5-star quarterback prospect committed? And I can't remember exactly what you said, but now it does kind of seem like the chips are pushed all in the table, and Tennessee fans are going to be they're going to be disappointed if Tennessee does anything but win a national title, and that's pretty lofty.
Yeah, I think that's where the expectation is. I mean, when you're the number one overall team, despite the number one overall team having not won the national title since Miami in '99, that's been brought up over and over again, including by Tennessee players. They know about that. So I think that's part of it's added to the list of motivating factors of, hey, let's go do it for the first time in 23 years. But fans have seen the regular season and the tournament championships in the SEC. They've seen how many games and how many runs this team has put up and how many home runs Tennessee has hit compared to everybody else in the country. It's not close. Tennessee versus number 2. This team is just, it's that level good. And a national championship would be an amazing accomplishment. It would legitimately put Tennessee in the discussion of the greatest teams of all time. And you just don't get to have that conversation hardly ever with any program. So fans would want that. You could still bring the question up. Would you rather get that national title? Would you be willing to lose Nico to get that national title? Still be a challenging conversation for a lot of people. But fans love this team. They've gotten to know the personality of a lot of the players, and that's a big part of it. It's similar, not the same, but similar to the Grant Williams, Admiral Schofield teams, how fans got to know the players, and they fell in love with that, and the team had success along the way. Similar here with Tennessee baseball.
You know, the team it reminded me of is the Meeks, that 1998 Lady Vol National Championship team. And the reason was they had all this hype. They looked that good, and they ended up undefeated and had to win it all. You go to Tennessee's 1998 National Championship football team, nobody thought they were going to win it all. I mean, I can't remember the last time other than the Meeks, and I went back and looked for a column on offthehooksports.com. I went back and looked, and there really hasn't been a team that you would point at and you would say since the General Neyland's days that you would point at and say that's the favorite, they should win, and they do. That just doesn't happen a lot.
It's really hard as the favorite, and that's been the case at Tennessee. And it, when you say that, it doesn't sound right. Well, if you're the number one team, you're expected to, but it's easier said than done. Even the greatest example, which has been brought up when we talk about how hard it is to get things done, the best Patriots team didn't get it done. So they're removed from the list. And that's why getting the national title is so important, because you're talking about the chance to be one of the greatest ever to nobody's going to talk about you again unless you want to talk about disappointing results. That would be the case. Now, like if Tennessee gets to the final round, to the best 2 of 3 series in the College World Series and falls short, that would be another reminder of how hard it is to get there. That would still easily make it the greatest Tennessee baseball season of all time. And you would still have so many memories to go with it. But you're trying to get something done that you may never have another shot at. Maybe you will. As long as Tony Vitello is the coach, they're going to be in contention. But we've seen too many examples of you knock on the door a bunch of times, but you fall short. Gonzaga's in that stage. They've become one of the best programs, right? Still trying to break through all the way. So they have that chance here, and it could just add to what Tennessee could do next if they're able to win a national title.
I mean, you look at Dan Marino. He got there early, and now he's still trying to get back by dog cussing his production assistants.
The expectation was, look at all these titles that are coming. Where are we now?
Yeah, it's time to dog cuss some production assistants in television. That helps him feel better. It reminds me, if Tennessee were not to win it, making a weird NBA analogy, it would remind me of some of those old Cleveland Cavaliers teams that were really loaded. Jordan hit the big floaters, shot and beat. It would remind me of some other teams that have been out there, maybe Reggie Miller's Pacers teams. I don't know why I'm going NBA, of teams that you feel like won a championship at some point, but they didn't really. Like they were probably the best team that year, but they didn't really, and they don't want to be remembered like that.
Right. And the other part of it is that fan bases all around the country are pulling against Tennessee. Not every fan from every team, but it's difficult to really be hated in college baseball, I have to imagine. Tennessee is by a lot of teams out there, especially in the SEC, like Arkansas fans, Ole Miss fans, Vandy fans, Florida fans. I don't think they're going to be, hey, SEC pride here. Let's pull for Tennessee. I don't think it's going to be that at all. And another aspect here, it's a part of the conversation and will be forever moving forward is social media, and that's where this comes in. So anytime there is a chance to take a dig at Tennessee, fans will take that, and Tennessee fans will get defensive, understandably so, if that happens. So, part of it is avoiding that. You don't want to be a part of the jokes. You don't want to be the answer to, hey, what was the best team ever that couldn't get it done? And if Tennessee doesn't win it, then other fan bases are going to say, yeah, it's the Vols, same old Vols. So, then there's the hunger factor, right? Tennessee football knocking on the door and looks like, hey, the next few years could take Tennessee back to a high level, but fans are still waiting to see if that's going to happen. Basketball's had a good amount of success. Postseason success has not been everything that they wanted besides the SEC tournament this past year, but it's been a tough 10, 15 years in a lot of ways for Tennessee fans. So to have this, to enjoy the ride and have the finish line be at the national championship, that would, I think, mean more to Tennessee fans. Like, go back to talking about those Lady Vols teams in the 90s and the national championship season. Well, Dave, just before that, there was the World Series trip. You had the Peyton Manning years. Lady Vols at that point, they were the best program in the country. You were expecting really good success with a number of programs. Now Tennessee looks like it's getting back to there. Like right now, the athletic department's in great shape. And things can always change, but right now it's in great shape. Good leadership, good coaching with a number of different sports. But this is your chance to break through and say, hey, all these things that we've been happy about, it's backed up and on a national stage. So to get some of that national credit, I think fans crave that, understandably so, and here's their chance.
I know we got the Supers coming up, but finish this sentence. Tennessee winning a national championship in baseball would be the biggest thing for its athletic department since.
Biggest thing since, at least probably the Elite Eight to get to that spot. And that was a more unexpected run that Tennessee went on that season because of the suspension and dismissal in the middle of the year of Tyler Smith and being a 6th seed in the NCAA tournament. They end up in the Elite Eight. National championship in baseball to me would be a bigger accomplishment. Basketball gets more coverage, but I mean, it's a national title. And, baseball is not football or basketball. Still a big deal. I think to the fans, it's still, you talk about the big three, realistically, of football, basketball, baseball, and it's right there. You're not going to hear track brought up. You're not going to hear golf or tennis. It's always going to be, baseball would be the third. So to win a national championship to me is a bigger deal than going to the Elite Eight. It's just that was the first time in history the program had done that as well. So you can go back further. I mean, it's just be an all-time accomplishment. It's never going to top 13-0, 98 national title. In football, nothing can except for doing it again in football. But this would be right up there among the greatest accomplishments of all time. You have Tennessee football, you have everything Pat Summitt did, and then I think you would go to Tennessee baseball winning a national title. Because the other thing, I mentioned, like, fans have fallen in love with the players. I mean, Tony Vitello, he's a rock star at Tennessee. You could argue he's the face of Tennessee athletics right now. And I realize the statement of that because of football being in good shape. But his personality and how good he is, I mean, he's the real deal. So whether they win the national championship or not, that's not going to change. But you get the ring, yeah, you've taken yourself to a status that almost everybody else cannot reach.
Yep, the Fall Report today brought to you by our friends at Zool Beer. You're going to love Zool Beer, and check them out. They've got that fantastic tap room as well that is just in a perfect location. It's right there on 5th Avenue downtown, so you can stop in. We'll see you on Friday and have a good time, have some stuff to give away, and we'll also be glad to maybe purchase you a cold brew or two. But craft beer, man, that's my thing. Absolutely love it. And they took the gold at World Beer Cup in the Juicy Hazy IPA category. That means they're the number one Juicy Hazy IPA. That's out of 342 other breweries. So check them out. That's Zool, right downtown on 5th Avenue. A great place to hang out. Great beer as well. It's a craft brew that, man, I've seen done right, and I personally endorse them. And Josh, the bottom line is we look at this baseball team, it's not a very likable team unless you happen to be wearing orange.
Well, I do think that's the case for probably most fans out there. Now, there are some that say, "Hey, I love the vibe. I love the trash talking attitude of Tennessee." Like younger fans out there, there might be some. Go to the West Coast. Maybe there's a UCLA fan, but around the SEC, I think most are going to say, "I do not like this Tennessee baseball team. I do not like the Drew Gilbert bat flip. I do not like Jordan Beck's swagger and the daddy cap and the fur coats." That's a Tennessee thing. That's the way it's supposed to be, by the way. Like Tennessee's not doing it saying, man, I really hope LSU fans like this. Really hope Texas A&M's cool with this. They're not worried about that at all. But for fans, Tennessee fans, they love it. And this also happens with the start of the NIL era. So you can go to Lindsey Nelson Stadium and you'll see it backed up. You see the honcho shirts and all the different Tennessee merchandise that has been put together, Tennessee baseball specific, and the fans love it. But when Tennessee was down against Georgia Tech, I promise you there were some college baseball fans saying, "Hey, go Yellow Jackets. Let's put some pressure on Tennessee on a Monday winner take all game, because how sweet it would be if this Tennessee baseball team, all the trash that they've talked, that they were to go down in the regional round, because then it would be one of the biggest upset losses of all time." But that comes back to what we said earlier. This Tennessee baseball team responds quite well when that's the situation, where if you just pull up the final score, you wouldn't even know that happened. So, I think as Tennessee advances, if Tennessee's in the World Series, then fans who do not have their team in Omaha, they're going to say we have 7 favorite teams, and it's the teams not named Tennessee, hoping that they'll take down the Vols. So, but that can make the fun, the ride even more enjoyable, more fun for fans of hey, it's us against everybody. And not that Tony Vitello needs extra motivation for his team, but every coach looks for that extra chip. And if I'm there, I'm saying everybody's against us. Now, on our show on the Sports Animal last week, Kirby Connell mentioned something that was interesting. I should have followed up with him, but we were moving in a different direction. But he mentioned other players on other teams kind of getting behind him because, they know each other. They play summer ball together and all this stuff. I think other players on other teams might say, hey, that's kind of cool what they're doing. Not necessarily if they're going head-to-head, but if they see Tennessee advancing and they're not there, there's some other players on other teams that might think that's kind of cool. And I think in the future, as long as Tony Vitello is the coach, I think Tennessee will be an attractive transfer option because other players are seeing what Tennessee's doing as a program and it's fun, and other players will want to be a part of it. But that's going to cause other fans to hate Tennessee even more.
No, and you can't blame them. You pull out the fur coat and all that stuff. I mean, and you remind me of a conversation I had with my son last night, and that was about the game. And during the game, I'm like, I don't know, that goes a little over the top. And here he's 17 years old. He sees a little bit different than me, that I'm 34 like you. So that he says, he's like, why not? This is fun. This is cool. It does appeal to a younger generation, and maybe the major leagues need to take a gander towards Knoxville. And I don't even say that in jest, Josh. I mean, they're trying to speed up the major league game right now.
Yeah, I think personality is great. But you also have to recognize, hey, sometimes what we do, that's going to be disliked by others, and you should probably just embrace that. You have that with players like Tennessee basketball. Zakai Ziegler, I think the world of him. I would love to have him on my team. He's a terrific defensive player. He's a spark plug offensively, what he was able to do as a freshman. But you're not going to like him if he's on the other team. That's the way it's supposed to be. You're always going to have at least a few of those guys. Major League Baseball, you're not supposed to like it if Fernando Tatis bat flips, unless you're a Padres fan. So that's going to be the way that it is a lot of times when I'm talking about if you're going up against them. So if you're a Florida fan, of course you're going to hate Tennessee. If Florida were doing this, if Florida were as good as Tennessee is this year and had the swagger to go with it and was bat flipping in Knoxville, well, Tennessee fans would hate it. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Like, it's okay that the opposing teams, especially your rivals, don't like you. Tennessee doesn't like the Vandy boys. That's great. That's good for the sport overall. Like that you can step back and have the big picture conversation. What Tennessee is doing is a positive for college baseball. It's a sport that I think has grown a little bit in the last couple of years. It still has a long way to go to get to where the sport wants to be in terms of getting attention. Like ESPN carries college baseball, right? Pull up their app. Sometimes it's impossible to find the scores of NCAA baseball games. They're not always updated. ESPN carries the games. It doesn't even always update the scores. So they're telling you how much work still needs to be done. What Tennessee's doing is at least getting more attention. You're more likely to be in a Sports Center top 10. You're more likely to be on a clip that gets shared on social media. So if you're a Florida fan, you pull that clip up, you're going to hate it. But you're going to tune in to pull against them. Oregon State fan, they're going to tune in probably to pull against Tennessee. Texas fans doing the same. That's good for the sport, and it's fun if you're a Tennessee fan to say, you know what? I'm glad Texas is pulling against us because we're going to pull against them when we see them in Omaha.
Happy birthday, Josh.
Thank you, Dave.
That is awesome. It's hard to believe you're already 24 years old.
Yeah, it feels like it's been a full year since I last celebrated my birthday.
It has. It's a long 365, 24/7, as the kids like to say. So he's Josh Ward. I'm Dave Hooker. The Vol Report will continue to talk to you here with the Vol Report and Off the Hook with me, Dave Hooker. Again, Zool is a great place to watch the game this weekend. You are absolutely going to love the food. They've got the food truck in there, and you're going to love their beer. After all, they're winning national awards, for goodness sake. It's right there on 5th Avenue downtown. Zool, XUL beer. Well, you can see it right there on the video overlay. It's not radio only. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Give us a follow, and please turn on your notifications. YouTube, Twitter, at the Dave Hooker, at OTH Sports Media. And go to offthehooksports.com, which is a thing now, finally, after months and months and months. So have a fantastic day, everyone. Happy birthday, Josh, and we will talk to you soon.
You got it, Dave. A lot of fun. Thank you.